I got the fam, I got the keys, I get the work. I am the man, you know what I'm saying, so leave it to me, cause I get it first, yeah. Woo. I've been going all day, man, same plan, can't change that. Till I'm right around, whole squad sitting back, chilling in the Maybach. Yeah, only as deep as your roots go. I don't do corny like fructose. If you got the drummer, that's word to my mama, I'll cover you up like a tombstone. I was last in my past, now you see I'm the one. They say work, never work, if you work and it's fun. We on the winning team, on top where you find us. We can do anything, non-stop till our time's up. We on the winning team, on top where you find us. We can do anything, non-stop till our time's up. We can do, ayy, we coming up from the dirt, ayy. They trying to get us to fall, ayy. I don't even gotta flex now, boy, it's only win by default, ayy. Taking off with the ring, ain't nothing left, man. We the kings, ran with the team, ran with the dream, ran with the one fan in the seats, ayy. I pay my dues, check the receipt, looking at you already peaked, way back then. You can't follow with my tracks, man. I was last in my past, now you see I'm the one. They say work, never work, if you work and it's fun. We on the winning team, on top where you find us. We can do anything, non-stop till our time's up. We on the winning team, on top where you find us. We can do anything, non-stop till our time's up. We on the winning team, on top where you find us.
The Season 3 campaign continues from one of the wildest tracks out there as we welcome you to Round 7 of the iRacing Bundren Lawn Care Series for the virtual Talladega Super Speedway with live coverage right here on the KBueno Racing Network. We're happy to have you join us as we move through the season all the way to its champion. We're alongside Charlie Baier in the booth. My name is Kenneth Bueno. Charlie, this is surely a welcome to the jungle, back to a place where chaos and havoc seeps through every crack of this 2.66 mile racetrack, and a place where the wild card turns its fates right up to us.
Yeah, this is possibly going to be one of the most unpredictable races of the season here at Talladega Super Speedway. So much unpredictability going on here. A wild card race, lots of people looking for points as we descend towards our playoffs. It's really going to be crucial for some of these guys to run up front, get some points, and carry on a good season.
It is our 7th race of the season, but the second time we visit a track listed over 2 miles. Of course, that race only being the 200 over at Daytona just 1 month ago when our season opener Developments have happened all over the series so far. We've had 5 different winners, and tonight we'll look to see if that 5 becomes a 6. But the real change of differences comes within the points stand. He's going to show that right in the middle of your screen, where Aiden Kirker leads your field with 191 points in the championship. Blaze McKinney, who's won 2 races so far this season, is listed 14 points behind. In second, Parker White, with his win at Daytona Road Course and his consistent performances, is third, with Jonathan T. Jones over in fourth. And you look all the way back, Charlie, and really a lot of star-studded names in this one. Nick Miller, Glenn Bundren, a lot of the drivers we've seen in the playoffs last season, but then some new names, Brady Weileman, Bridger Olson, who came off that win at Daytona earlier this season, and of course Cole Williams drivers that are trying to find their way into this mix.
Yeah, and like I said, with the amount of cars that we're getting as comparison to last week's race at Nashville Fairgrounds, it's still very, very, very important for a lot of these guys who are sitting outside the top 10 or guys who have had a rough season so far to run up front, because this track doesn't really depend on driver strength as much, and the runs are super, super important for these guys. So I'm really interested to see how some of those guys sitting inside the top 10 defend their position while the guys outside are trying to jump in.
And as we look over to just how we got here, where we are, and where we're headed on the road to a championship, we'll look at the season schedule. You can see all the races highlighted in yellow. Those are the ones that we already got by, and the white one there, race number 7 at Talladega, is the one we are at right now. We saw last week Blaze McKinney capture his second win of the season at the Nashville Fairgrounds, but we get now to a wild trio of races before we start the Bundren Lawn Care Series playoffs. Talladega tonight, Darlington next week, and then Chicago before we ultimately group up the top 10 in points to brawl at the Charlotte Roval to create the run for the playoffs and start that run all the way to the homestead of Miami Speedway when we get to a championship. Just before we get started here, and just as the field starts to grid on the front straightaway, we'll just take a little reference of where we are in the virtual world by taking a look at the KBRN Track Map with images provided by Google Earth. Going to take a look all the way down into Talladega, Alabama. 2.66 miles around this very large oval. Track opened all the way back in 1969 with bankings in 1 and 2 at about 33 degrees and turns 3 and 4 at about 32.5 degrees respectively. So there is a lot of banking, a lot of give and take, but it is a very wide track here. Charlie, just before we get over this grid, what are you seeming to look at now as we get into one of the wildest races we'll see this season?
Well, I think the thing I'm looking at here and what's crucial to a lot of these drivers is the teamwork that goes on out on the racetrack here. We saw it in the Daytona season opener. A lot of the guys, such as people like Parker White and his friends, most notably Brady Wheelman, who actually isn't starting right beside him compared to Daytona, in which they made up the front row. But I think it's going to be really important for teams such as Media Racing, Flying Arrows, because they've got a couple of notable guys in this race that can group together and go up to the front.
We see all the groups of drivers all the way down to this entire field tonight, and we'll take a look and trackside at your starting grid, see exactly where every driver and your favorite driver will be starting here tonight. Parker White with the fastest time on a pole with a 51.339. He will lead this field to the green flag right alongside the number 08 of Dylan Basin, starting right beside him.
Right behind them, Latham Joyner from Rapid Sim Racing. This makes up the inside of row number 2, and to his outside, Riley Maribel in that 72. Starts 4th.
And in row 3, the number 062 of Parker Collins will start inside the top 5 with defending champion and defending winner from Nashville, Blaze McKinney, the 87, will start tonight from 6th.
Up behind him, Jonathan T. Jones, a new signage, 2 of Flying Arrows. Will start on the inside of row number 4, and to his outside, Aaron Tribble in that number 84.
Into row 5, you'll find Mark Frimpong in the number 051, right alongside Media Racing driver, the number 82 of Cole Williams, rounding out this top 10.
Behind them, row number 6 sees the inside being taken by Brady Wheelman in the 51, and to his outside, Aiden Kirker lined up right behind his good friend Cole Williams.
We'll look to the rest of this field, see some notable drivers. JJ Hill back in the mix after getting over that iRating limit, so he's back starting 13th. Francisco Bacalhau right alongside 14th. League owner Glenn Bundren up in 16th. William Sheen a little bit further back, unfortunately doesn't really show us the rest of this grid. Got the drivers along the likes of William Schmidt, Sartaj Maan, AJ Bain, of course PJ Merrill, Andy McDowell, Hunter Rupp, Trace Shuttlesworth, Brody Garner, Corey Hartz, and a lot of the other drivers that'll be here tonight. Gonna find their way around this 2.66 mile oval. And we saw last time, Charlie, and the last time we visited this track, just how chaotic it was. Saw very large wrecks, saw a run all the way to the finish, which did end up with Shane Manitoba getting the win barely over Brody Garner. Is there somewhat of a look here tonight, or there's really no guarantee anything we're seeing here tonight?
I don't think there's any guaranteeing, and it's really hard to predict at a track like this, really what's going to specifically happen. I'm interested to see really how this is all going to play out, because Talladega, as unpredictable as it is, and how fun it is to watch, it's going to be a crazy race out there.
Especially as the playoffs start to progress through and they start to get closer and closer. That pressure is mounting for the drivers inside that top 10, and even the drivers looking outside of that top 10, trying to barge their way in with a win or any other strategy they have within the next stretch of races in order to find themselves running for a title in season number 3. Well, the pace truck has everybody doubled up 2x2. It'll be Parker White and Dylan Basin, 2 Toyota Camrys at the top of this field. Joyner and Marabello behind them in a Ford Mustang and a Chevrolet Camaro, and they will lead the rest of this field as they are 2x2. One thing you notice that's different about the other tracks, that the pace car comes off and the pace truck makes that left all the way down to pit road. We have this long tri-oval before we get to the green flag, as these two will double up all the way to the inside line on the yellow line all the way to the bottom. They're going to reach around to the start-finish line where we go green from the Talladega Super Speedway. White leading with Basin. We're underway.
Lap number one of the race goes to the 95 of Parker White. Did the same thing at Daytona, led the first lap, and led a lot more beyond that. So, well, he's going to be an name that we're going to see all the way up front throughout this race. Latham Joyner right behind him to help, and that 062 of Parker Collins makes up the 3 cars clear at the top on the inside line.
Inside line is all grouped up. There's only about 3 cars up there with Frimpong, the number 84 there up there, and of course Dylan Basin, the 84, going to try to get up. That's Aaron Tribble up at the top of the racetrack. So that outside line not formed up just yet. Everybody, though, single file behind Parker White as they go to lap number 2 to break into lap number 3 off turn number 4. And they're all single file throughout. I'm surprised I didn't see any drivers back out of this one, but it seems as though everybody's separated as White leads lap number 2.
Organization is key in a track that requires only the foot down all the way on the throttle. And we're seeing a lot of guys pretty much throughout the entirety of the pack, besides with the exception of those 3 cars on the top. They're pretty much all lined up just in a single file line, and that's really going to be what we're going to be noticing, the differences in approach, in aggressiveness. A lot of the guys are going to be aggressive, try to get up front, group up with your friends, but a lot of guys just want to make it to the end, and that's their main goal, to just make it to the end, line up, be conservative, let them join on the top side.
Latham Joyner deciding not to be conservative this time around. He's going to help Basin, Frimpong, and Tribble up to the top. He's going to try to make a case for this race lead as Parker Collins will fill the gap all the way to the bottom. They're side by side. And one thing we're going to notice here throughout this night, Charlie, is just who you're going to work with. A lot of these drivers will find their friends, find their teammates around at this racetrack, and get drafted up with them. We already saw it a little bit in practice just before we got green under here as Latham Joyner takes the race lead on lap number 4.
Yeah, and you talk about those friends, those 3 guys at the top that just work together to push Latham out front. They're good buddies with each other. That's Mark Frimpong, Dylan Basin, and Latham Joyner. They all know how to race around each other. They're really good friends on and off the racetrack. So I would definitely not put it out of the picture that we're going to see those numbers up front throughout the night.
So it's now 4 cars up to the top as Riley Marabello decided to help these 3 out to try and push up to the front. But meanwhile, it's pretty much everybody up to 11th or so that has a relatively clean gap in this line before you get to Aiden Kirker, Francisco Bacallao, and Corey Hartz, who are working in kind of a 3-car tango before Sartaj Mon and the rest of these guys end up following behind. You see Sartaj looking up to the outside. He'll follow a 3-car train up there, and of course, we'll see a lot of that moving around into tonight. Drivers scooping up in each and every lane, trying to find where they're fastest. And of course, if there's drivers not willing to hang back, not willing to lay off the throttle, much like Parker White up here on the outside, they're going to have something to say up for the leaders.
And when you jump to the outside, like you just saw 2 cars jump to the outside, that left a gap on the bottom line that the 3 car had to just fall back to the 87, and that allowed Parker White to push pretty much clear the race lead if he can get it down the front straightaway. But that's really the dynamics of how these lanes move and how they shift and how people make moves that really determine their momentum.
So in a lap 5, Joyner had the lead for a moment, but at the line, it's going to be an easy tie, but maybe Parker White at the head of the field. I don't believe he led that lap. I think Joyner holds it over now. Actually, Parker did lead that lap, so he gets a nose out in front by just a couple of inches. Meanwhile, championship defender Blaze McKinney all the way helping the Camaro to the bottom. But look at this 3-wide line all the way to the top. Corey Hart's trying to find a lane with Sartaj and some others to help.
That's the proximity racing crew I see up there. Corey Hart, Sartaj Maan, Brody Garner, and I believe that is the 78 of Liam Sheen up there. They're making it 3-wide on the top, and with the new wall dynamics that iRacing introduced with the last build, they might be able to even make a chance for the lead.
And they're 3x3 just a couple rows deep until you get to about Parker Collins, but they're starting to find their way up to the front. Meanwhile, we had a new change in the race lead. Blaze McKinney has found his way to the front. You saw him move up to the middle lane up with Parker Collins. He found his way up there, got the draft, got around Latham Joyner. Parker White also had done the same thing. But meanwhile, that middle lane seems to have fallen through. That three-car pack starting to get away from the rest of these guys.
2 guys who fought for the championship last season. One of them was crowned a champion, another with a heartbreak spin from the race lead. Now working together up front, that 87 and the 95. Clear so far. Dylan Basin working the 3rd line.
That middle line is completely obsolete now. The only one left was Aaron Tribble, but everyone found space there to the bottom. They're going to find a way to pinch them down, and they need some sort of momentum to able to get up to these guys in the top 6 or so. Here comes Frimpong and Tribble to help, so they'll find a line up there as well to compete against this 4-car train, ending with Parker Collins and beginning with Blaze McKinney. And something also we noted, Charlie, at Daytona, we saw it in the 2nd season, we saw it here in the 3rd season when we went for the 200 strategy. Played such a huge role into how that race played out. Obviously a minimal amount of yellows. We saw some drivers get into contact, but it was not as crazy as what we've seen from Talladega last season. And strategy could also come into favor as we have a 75-lap race. These guys can definitely not make it on fuel all the way through. And it is going to be a question of how long can you last on the green flag run before everyone starts to separate and everyone starts to find their way down pit road as Frimpong looks for the race lead.
Even for the race lead, leading that lap is the 53 of Mark Frimpong. Will he be able to clear? Not yet, with help from Aaron Tribble. So a lot of the guys just pushing as much as they can, but the lead seemed to be pretty even with it, an equal amount of cars.
It's been a lot of cars. It's pretty much even all the way back to J.J. Hill as one car all the way going to go down to the ape, and I'm not sure who that was. Looked like maybe Paul Granada. Actually, no, not Paul Granada. It was one of the Nova Sim Racing guys that decided to head all the way down to the inside, but no yellow on the racetrack. We stay green. They're still side by side, though, for that first spot, and that's obviously something we're seeing. The organization starting to kick into play, like you said there, Charlie, where you start to get some sort of line running. You got some guys with you. You got everybody on the same page, and all of a sudden you have a case to make for the drivers up front, and now even more organization between the proximity guys up top.
Yeah, they're kind of flirting with the outside line right now, or the 3rd line, I should say. Just trying to get a run up front, but that's really not going to help the middle line's case as it kind of chokes it up, and as they fall back, Sartaj Maan slides back into line. So I really think that it's a little bit too early, but if you get cars to fill up that middle line, I think they can really make a shot for the lead.
Well, we've got cars filling up all 3 lines as Dylan Basin found his way to the top. He's going to hang with the other proximity drivers in the 49, 57, and 55. Maybe Garner will look to the middle. Miller has also found his way to the middle as well as Frimpong continues to lead this group. They've had yet to go up to the front, lead a lap over Blaze McKinney just yet as the inside proves so efficient. And that's something over on the side of things in these drafts, Charlie. It's just how the lines work. When you look over on the inside, of course, you have the most amount of momentum compared to the drivers up top because obviously you have the shortest way around the racetrack and you're able to get the advantage into the corners, but then coming off of them, you're on that outside lane and you can get somewhat of a run coupled with the fact that the inside line usually checks up a lot when they have some drivers hanging on with each other. As they're a little bit rotating there, as Latham Joyner had his way to the inside, but now Dylan Basin has found his way to the race lead. That top line surely is working for them.
It is working indeed, just with the nose out front, and he'll choke back as they start to exit the corner, but down the front straightaway, maybe to the line, he could possibly get a nose ahead and lead the lap. It's Toyota, Chevy leading the lines.
Now they're still 3x3. It kind of broke up a little bit, so now they have about 3 cars in each line, apart from maybe that 4th outlier in the 98 of Andy McDowell, as well as Brody Garner, who looks over to the middle. So now there's 2 up top. There really hasn't been much momentum to say up at the top, so it seems as though the middle and the inside seems to be the ones that prevail so far. It's a single file line all the way back. You can tell the drivers starting here: Parker Collins, Brady Weileman, Joseph Costello, Brandon Paunetto. Everybody on this inside line looking to stay true and hang back for the most part.
Looking like this pack is approaching a lap car. That's Cole Woody. And he'll slide down to the apron and give them guys as much room as possible to race.
Cole Woody going to go 1 lap down. Not sure whether he started a little bit late or whether something might have happened to that number 17 machine, but nonetheless, he's got a clean race car, but he will be put a lap down. That's something that's way different from what we see over on the other tracks in the schedule, Charlie, compared to the 1.5 miles, all the short tracks. When you're a lap car, you have no chance against this entire huge pack of cars on the lead lap. You do not stand a chance in the draft unless you're able to slither your way into some sort of gap. Unless you have that sort of option to fall back on, you're just going to get freight trained by everybody. And the only really option is to just let everyone by and just hope for the best, hope that nothing gets in the way, and hopefully you can stay clean, everybody else stays clean around you, apart from what we see at the 1.5 milers, where in the short tracks, where you can be a lap car, but you can always gain them back. You can be faster than the leaders, and you can keep your position. You can try to stay under 1 lap down. Seems to not be the case, as Parker White is taking over the race lead, and Tribble hanging up top with the 49 and 55.
As you mentioned, pole sitter Parker White in the 95 back to the race lead. So that bottom line pretty much swapped between the top 2. We saw Blaze McKinney lead Parker White. Now Parker White leads Blaze McKinney, and lots of shuffling throughout this pack. And Sartaj Mountain over the voice chat complaining at Aaron Tribble in his holding line.
And now we're seeing 2 drivers a little bit further back. That's the Nova Sim Racing guys of Josh Patterson and Paul Granada. So they found their way in the team allegiance in there. We saw Proximity working well together. Now we're seeing Nova Sim Racing start to emerge from the fold. Meanwhile, that outside line is pretty much gone. Only about 3 cars left up there, as Parker White will continue to hold on for the race lead. And as we're looking to a lot of these drivers, you look at some guys with a lot of plate experience. Obviously, these guys run in different leagues. They know what it's like to be in plate races. Obviously, Parker White, guys like Blaze McKinney, guys like Mark Frimpong, who seem to be very notorious out there on the 2.5 mile and all these large ovals in the super speedways. Obviously, you have our defending winner, Bridger Olsen, who's sitting a little bit further back. And drivers like Brody Garner, who's been so close to the win already twice. Won at Talladega last season, and then obviously the 200 at Daytona this season, looking for that first win that we've yet to see from a good chunk of these drivers in this pack.
Back out front sees the Crystal Designs number 87 on Blaze McKinney. Leading way is going to lead that number 15, and it seems like the intensity up front has calmed down quite a bit from when a lot of the guys were almost shooting 3 wide. So we're back to 2 wide, double file, about, I would like to say, 8 rows back with these guys.
And now we're starting to kick into a longer run. Usually by this time, a lot of times probably you get cautions, maybe something to break the action up. And as you see, obviously the aggressivity of this group has tamed down just a bit. But nonetheless, we'll probably get into the minds that a strategy might come into play. Maybe that wasn't the case for a lot of the drivers going into this race, because at tracks like these, you don't have that predictability. You don't really know what to expect. Obviously, at tracks like these, nothing is guaranteed. You can be in the lead 1 second, and all of a sudden you get it taken over. You can be wrecked in just an instant, and that's really what the case is at tracks like Daytona, tracks like Talladega, with these high downforce packages where the cars can really suck up to each other and get a lot of the good runs that you can see here, with them all the way tailing and nosing all the way against each other's bumpers. But you know, at this point, lap number 17, you got to be thinking at some point, if this stays green, where will the strategy kick into play? Where will I find a way to go down pit road, and how will I be able to do it safely? And what am I going to do to be able to ensure that I can stay with the pack and not be gapped by the rest of this field and get one lap down?
Brody Garner hops up to the third line, blocks the Nova Sim Racing teammates of Josh Pedersen and Paul Granada, kind of blocking the allegiance there. Now teammate Proximity Racing, teammate Nick Miller hops up as well. Now they can make their effort to charge up front. They're trying to get a nose out front.
So they're 3x3 now as Miller leads that group. But the thing for Miller, he's 2 laps down in 29th. So this is not 4th position. The only one 4th position will be Brody Garner up there, who's sitting in 4th. So I guess maybe the aggressivity is not gone just yet. They found that way to the outside lane, and they want to push. They want to get all the way to the front, contend with Mark Frimpong and Blaze McKinney. So far, that has been the case, but they've been able to keep it stable as Garner now looks to be just a solo driver with Nick Miller as Patterson falls back.
Really good pushes for the 55, but since the 23 and the 04 have since dropped back, that's really going to choke in that. It almost makes you wonder, if you get enough cars, it would be really, really cool to see that I-line work.
And we've seen it just a couple of times. I mean, obviously at the highest level, the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series, you would see it at places like Talladega. You saw it at the opening race at Daytona, where there were 3x3 practically for most of the race. Even the eNASCAR iRacing Pro Series, seeing drivers 3x3 all the way throughout the entire track with no mercy, nothing holding them back. As now the 3 wide has already calmed down to just 2, and that outside lane is starting to merge back into the solo one all the way to the bottom. So now it's just kind of a change of hands. You see that outside form, you see them have hope, they're not able to get to the front, and then they kind of dissipate at the reins.
All right, I'm hearing right now that a lot of guys are starting to shuffle to the bottom line, preparing for pit stops. It's a bit early to be hearing this on the iRacing radio, but it seems like it's going to be happening fairly soon.
And that'll be the case. A lot of these drivers all the way to the bottom just going to make sure they have that line, because if you're up in the high side, you're going to have really no space unless somebody on the inside decides to pit with you and you guys can go together. But that could mean some miscommunication with some of the drivers, and that could possibly result in a wreck that we could see on the entrance of pit road. So we'll just see what time these guys will go down pit road. We've only gone 20 laps in this stint, so we'll just see how long these guys will take and how many stops they'll be able to make throughout this entire race. If they pit around now, they would have to pit at least one more time before this is all said and done, and they would go for a 2-stop strategy and make their way down to pit road. In that instance, they're not going to pit this time, so they're going to stay out, but at least some of these drivers planning to make that move. We'll look a little bit further back in this field, as here's another pack with AJ Bain, Mitch Hobbs, Parker Collins, who's fallen back to the 17th position. Then you look at this long train of cars with newly Flying Arrows member Jonathan Jones with teammate Shane Mantova, then defending winner of the 200 Bridger Olsen, Riley Marabello, Cole Williams, all of them just kind of hanging in the back, hoping for some big wreck so they can escape.
Word on the wreck is a lot of the guys are going to start coming in for pit stops this time by, including leader Blaze McKinney and Parker White and everyone behind them. So it's really going to be a dice roll to see which strategy is going to work or which group is going to prevail. You know, whether that be the first group or the second group, but a lot of guys diving down right now.
They're all fanning out up to the entrance of pit road. Question is, can all of them make it? But Frimpong locks up the brakes a little bit, but maybe does get that position over McKinney. You can see this entire group down at pit road. They're backing up, though. Bain and the 04 Granada got into contact. There's even further drivers back there with more contact. A little bit, I thought I saw J.J. Hill in the mix as well, but all of them down pit road. If you look all the way to the front of this field, Joyner decides to stay out with Tribble, Collins, Bundren, Miller, Paunetto, Marabello, Williams, Kirker, and Woody. All of them in this line. Going to probably pit next time by, and everybody else going to stay out for the most part. They're going to get on a pit road now and exit together.
You see Mark Frimpong stuck in his pit stall. That was indeed a speeding penalty. Came in too hot, locked up the tires, and he'll have to pay the price. Next group of pit stops coming in right now.
Here they come, so we'll see everybody going into pit road this time. There's Parker Collins. There's the SPM Racing entry a little bit further up ahead, but here comes this big group of cars that'll find their way into the pit lane, get their service. So at least with this strategy, Charlie, we're going to see possibly a 2-stop strategy if this stays green throughout. Oh, almost contact there between Tribble and Williams heading over into pit road. So this means now that we'll just have to find out who comes out first. There's Corey Hart's going on a pit road as McKinney is in this 3-car pack. Everyone's separated now. That was something I mentioned a little bit early in this race, but now it's really starting to come through fruition. You had this large pack, everybody goes down pit road, and all of a sudden everybody spread across this 2.66 mile racetrack.
You're looking at the lead pack right now. These guys, Blaze McKinney, Sartaj Men, and Brody Gunn, are going to shuffle back for the race lead, supposedly, as they power by a lot of these guys. Right behind them, people like Parker White, Brady Wheelerman got latched onto the top pack as well.
They're going to work together. There was Parker Collins, who I believe may have just joined us. We got a caution right after the pit stops. Who was involved this time? It was the number 17 of Cole Woody involved. I see another car. That was Latham Joyner, who had just recently pitted from the race lead. They're involved in an incident on a first yellow on lap number 23. We'll try to get a look at what just happened with Woody that time by. This was him exiting pit road, and contact there with Latham Joyner. I guess a little desperate, just trying to tell him, hey, let's go. Let's get back on the racetrack. Sends a 17 around. There's up ahead Latham Joyner spinning around the track and right in the middle of the racing surface. Brings out our first yellow of the evening.
Well, we now know the fuel window is about 20 to 25 laps, but, you know, the strategy, I guess, at this point isn't entirely thrown out the window, as we could get another green flag pit stop in the future. But, you know, as the old saying goes, cautions breed cautions.
Well, at least a good thing for the entire field is that pretty much everybody pitted just before that yellow came out. So pretty much the main group that have went down pit road, that all went down together, they pitted, and then as soon as they came out, they already exited pit road, and then the caution came out. So everybody had already taken their service. So pretty much everybody on equal footing this time by. And everybody going to be all together. They're going to re-rack right with Brody Garner. I don't believe they're going to pit once more, but could possibly come into question when you look at just trying to top off, maybe get some extra laps on the fuel tank, but I don't believe that will be the case. We'll just have to find out, as some of the guys have already been looking into pit road, and actually everybody's looking down at pit road, so Garney will lead everybody by. Everybody just going to look to top off on fuel to make it some extra way.
Yeah, I think, you know, I've been hearing that, you know, this caution, I mean, this long green flag run really caught everyone by surprise, because everyone goes into Talladega knowing that, or Daytona, knowing that, you know, the big one is imminent pretty much. And it can take out you at any given moment. So, you know, with this long green flag run, a lot of these guys are impressed with it, and will try to work together more.
So this will be an interesting stretch, because Brady Weileman has just taken over the race lead over Brody Garner. Remember, a lot of those guys were trying to top off from fuel. Actually, it reminded that Parker White actually will cycle the race lead. They were side by side on the exit of pit road, but they will all sling in together. The only drivers out there behind the pace truck are just lapped machines. So it will be the lead lap right behind leader Parker White as we come back to the green flag, most likely on lap number 27 of the 75 event laps here from the Talladega Super Speedway. And of course, you mentioned there, Charlie, whenever you go into a track like this, you're always expecting something wild. You're expecting a huge wreck. You're expecting something large to come in. You're expecting the big one off the bat. And then that's why you see a lot of drivers hang in the back, because they just want to make sure they get out of trouble, make sure they have a clean race car, and make sure they survive should that be the case. But we got that long green flag run. We didn't have one yellow, and the only yellow was between two cars, and it was just exiting on pit road. It wasn't necessarily a large wreck per se. So does that give sort of a sentiment to these drivers that will probably get longer green flag runs from here on out? Or do you think it's just going to be the same mentality? Okay, we got a green flag run this time by, but we still have to watch for the chaos that's going to unfold.
Well, I think focus is really key at a plate track, and you know, a lot of times you can get that green flag run, you can be really confident, be a little bit more laid back, and the next thing you know, you're going to head on to the wall. But you know, it's really is a toss-up.
So there's Nick Miller, who's just a handful of laps down. I believe he also pit started with some of the drivers in this field, so he will be all the way back in 30th place and could possibly just try to get one of his laps back and get back onto the lead lap and make sure he can be in contention for position when it comes back to the green flag. Most likely would be on lap number 27. And one thing that we have here differently from the actual races that we see on the 1.5 miles and the short tracks, the cautions are minimized in terms of the amount of laps you run under the yellow flag, right? Because you have this long track. It takes very long to get around here. Under pacing, it takes a little while to get here under normal speed, but it takes a little bit to get over here around in terms of the pace truck and being behind the pace car at such a slow speed. So iRacing has done a good job to make sure that the laps under yellow flag at these type of tracks are minimized so that you can easily go back to the green flag and you're not spending as much time under yellow. But just a reminder to everybody watching in the YouTube chat that you can join the conversation with us up in the booth by using hashtag AskKBRN. You can put your question, followed by that hashtag. You can ask anything you want about this race, about the series, about us up in the booth, or anything within appropriate reason. You can use that hashtag, and we'll be sure to answer it just as soon as you send it. And, of course, we'll answer it to the best of our abilities. That's hashtag AskKBRN for anything you'd like to ask. So we're doubled up behind Parker White and Brady Weileman. And Charlie, you mentioned it, that you were surprised that Brady Weileman wasn't right next to Parker White at the start of this race. Well, at least good news is that they're reunited as friends on row number 1. So they'll find their way on the restart lap number 27 together. And we'll see just how well they perform as a group compared to just them on an inside line, considering that they're going to control both of the lines here on the next restart. Here we go. We're going to get a long road all the way to the front straightaway. Going to get to the trial one, and we'll get on a restart lap number 27 of 75. Already got over our first pit cycle of the evening. Now it's just a big question mark as to whether we'll find out whether another pit cycle will come into play or whether we'll just start to see everything change from here on out. We've seen it before. We can definitely see it once more. The pace truck will make its way onto the left side and down to the pit lane. It'll be Parker White and Brady Weileman, Toyota Camry and Chevrolet Camaro, going to lead the field back to the green flag. Will take the tri-oval. They'll make their way through their rhythms and back into the restart zone. We are back under green from Talladega.
All right, well, a lot of these guys trying to get back to where they were prior to the pit stops, and a lot of these pit stops set people back. Brody Gardner up front with Brady Wheelman, some guys who took advantage of those pit stops to make a lot of positions.
And we see the outside line not as quick to the gun as that inside line is, but they'll have some help. They got Brody Gardner, Brady Weileman up there as well. Now they have former leader Blaze McKinney up to help them out. So now they have about 6 cars to help with J.J. Hill, Aaron Tribble, Wiley Mirabello to be on that outside. We have a potent group up here trying to charge for the race lead into turn 1.
Still creeping up to the halfway point of this race. We're not there yet, but the intensity, sure, you can feel with a lot of these guys, even though we just were refreshed off of a yellow first one all race so far after a long green flag. And a lot of these guys are really anxious to get up front. And one of those guys I'm looking at is Andy McDowell on the bottom.
Yeah, Andy McDowell's found his way to third. We saw him kind of at the tail end of one of the inside lines a little bit earlier in the opening run, but it seems as though he found his way to the front on the inside along with his proximity racing teammate Sartaj Maan, who we saw was all the way up at the third line trying to hang in with teammate Brody Garner and Corey Hartson. They were trying to make something work out of the outside right up against the barrier in the outside wall, and they were not able to do it. So it seems as though they've made that change of plans with those pit stops. They find a way to the inside as Weileman gives a look. He finds an opening down low, so he'll be the third car right behind Parker Collins, and the 2 Parkers actually leading this field. Got a question by Racing Spino 90. He asks, in iRacing, is it a good idea, or is staying in the back still a good idea? Charlie, your thoughts?
Well, that question has been debated for a really long time on the iRacing service, and it honestly really depends on who you think you're racing around. Because, if you catch a long green flag run and it goes all the way to the end, like we saw in the season opener at Daytona, where you had to stay up for it in order to be there at the end, it's really, really a toss-up question. And, it's proven multiple times throughout this league that staying up front is the best if you want to take a more aggressive approach, but staying in the back is a lot more conservative.
Yeah, and just to go over that point once more, I mean, especially at a track like this, you really have to pick and choose where you do it. Because at most tracks, let's say you go to 1.5, let's say next week we go to Darlington, right? You go to there, you can hang in the back. Maybe things will happen up front, but if you don't have that speed to stay up there, if you're just kind of hanging in the back, you're not really guaranteed anything, and that really happens in any strategy, especially at tracks like these where that kind of situation is kind of heightened in a way. You can stay in the back here all you want at Talladega, but let's say that big wreck never happens. Let's say everybody just stays calm, everyone's clean, and everyone stays green from here on out. They have this long green flag run once again. At some point, it will have to click in your mind that you can't stay in the back anymore. You can't hang back because if nothing's happening, then there's no reason to be out in the back other than maybe just saving a little more fuel, which could be another avenue to go on. But if it's not that, then you're just trying to stay out of trouble, but you're not really staying out of trouble if there's no trouble there. So, that's something that really comes at a toss-up when you go at tracks like these. It's either you hang in the back, you try to be conservative, or you just hang in the middle, be aggressive, and try the best you can, much like Blaze McKinney, who's been working with Aaron Tribble up top to try and take away the race lead from Parker White.
Yeah, Aaron Tribble, I'm seeing him as kind of the underdog so far. We haven't really talked about him much, but he's been up there pushing people out to the race lead and really doing a really good job hanging in there. So Aaron Tribble, he could be one to be there at the end.
Yeah, he's one of the drivers to really show out his prowess tonight. We saw Frimpong there also in the mix in that opening run, but unfortunately, his pit road speeding penalty has set him all the way back to the 17th spot. Not quite impossible to get back up to the front of the field. It surely is a larger task than before, where he was actually just fighting for the race lead leading on that middle line. Got a question by LVB, asks, can we have some trivia during cautions? Well, we can try to set up some questions and try to find our way to give you guys and give you the people in the chat some sort of questions to kind of be a little more active as we go. But you saw right there in the 3 and 4, talked about Aaron Tribble. Seemed as though he got shuffled out to the third line, so he's going to have to find some sort of space behind Latham Joyner as Marabello moves up to second on the outside.
I'm on trivia duty.
All right. Well, I guess we can get those questions. You can find those questions. We can try to engage some of the audience. We have Ask KBRN, but we can also try different ways to make sure the audience is just as enthused as we are through a lot of these races. And so far, we really haven't seen that outside give up, Charlie. It has been very valiant. They really have not tried to give up. They haven't decided at one point, hey, let's just stick all the way to the bottom. The only way they did that was under the pit road window where they were going to decide to go down pit road. But if not, they've been very, very efficient. They've been persistent on just staying up there. But here's an interesting move. Garner going to work with his proximity teammates. All three of them going to make a third line.
Yeah, there's a 3-move up there, but recently they lost one of their teammates, Corey Hartz. He disconnected from the session just under a few minutes ago. So that's one important leg that they needed for all four of them to try to make a run up front. But they're still committed as they can make new friends, such as Latham Joyner, who's hopping up right now.
Yeah, Latham Joyner's going to hop up with them. We're still undecided on whether Tribble or Frimpong, and it seems as though they probably will. Frimpong a little more indecisive, going to work over to the middle, actually going to swoop back to the top, and there's a lot of shuffling there. But meanwhile, that third line found their way to the front. McKinney got shuffled back on the outside. We have a new race leader, Brody Garner, into turn 3 and 4.
And it finally pays off. One of those proximity racing representatives out front right now, but that's going to let them, the other two of Sartaj Maan and Amy McDowell, shift up front. So now they're going to occupy both lanes in the race lead. This is team dominance going on right now.
Yeah, and even better that they're controlling both lines of the racetrack. I mean, team allegiance at its finest, wouldn't you say, Charlie, that you go not only leading this race, you're not only defending that bottom where you can kind of keep yourself tucked in for a while, but you're also controlling that outside lane with your teammates there. They can make sure no other runs can be formed by any other driver. Maybe a say there for Latham Joyner and Mark Frimpong, but they're going to decide to lay one more time around, try to maybe form that up a little bit better. Got a question by Francisco. He asks, can you plug me being quick time in practice to make me feel better? I believe Francisco had disconnected. Something happened to him. He's currently listed 35th. 28 laps down, but he did have the fastest lap in practice. Had a good time drafting with some of the teammates like Bridger Olsen and Marabello, who Marabello a little bit further back, hanging with driver Glenn Bundren in the 37, and Bridger Olsen kind of being all the way back a little bit in this group. I don't see him necessarily on the ticker itself.
Yeah, he had internet issues earlier that took him out of the race, unfortunately.
Yeah, but there's Bridger Olsen right there. He's sitting 26 on the track. He's sitting with some of his Yomiuri Racing teammates, Cole Williams and Aiden Kirker. They seem to be the ones hanging in the back. This group specifically, these guys, haven't seen them up front just yet because I guess they're hanging in this backfield, just trying to make sure they can make their way out at the end, maybe save some fuel along the reins, but if they lose too much ground, it probably won't be as well. You see this line led by Mitch Hobbs, AJ Bain. There's Aiden Murray, sporting a different paint scheme tonight. The Bundren car, Joseph Costello. There's Jonathan Jones getting pushed out of line on the outside, going to form back in. It seems as though they're kind of the guys that have been hanging in the back, just waiting and waiting for something to happen up at the top of this field. Got a question by Side Drafting Productions. Good to see him back in the chat. He asks, best rookie so far this season, Charlie. I know we've seen a lot of promising drivers. Which one, in terms of the rookie standings, have caught you the most?
Man, tough question.
It's been tough.
I'm trying to think of the guys who weren't necessarily rookies last season. I mean, I would probably have to go with... Man, you hit me with a tough question there.
I mean, to be fair, there are a lot of drivers that, you know, they have made starts, or they made some sporadic starts, maybe one or two in the Bunch of Lawn Care Series last season, but this season could possibly be their full-time roundabout. Riley Marabello, I think, is one of those drivers that you look at. He, I believe, made some starts along with Jonathan T. Jones, but it wasn't really a full-time effort. They really didn't make their start at Daytona, made their way all the way to Homestead or Phoenix in the case of last season. You didn't really see that, but this season is where they're starting to kick their feet in, and now they're starting to really push their way in. I think Riley Marabello is one of the only drivers I can really think of, for the most part, that have made kind of a full-fledged run into this season, and he already, like we said before in some other races, has been one of the most promising drivers, has kept consistency, has been up there with the likes of these high-tier drivers, and of course at Michigan had a shot at the win with 2 laps to go if it wasn't for that incident after contact with Ezekiel Reyes off turn 2. So it was, you know, I think if there's one driver to list there, it would probably be Riley Marabello, but there could be a lot of options on the table. A lot of them have showed a lot of promising moments in this series so far. As you look for the battle for the lead, still Proximity Racing holding both lines, but this time it's flip-flopped. Sartaj Maan is up to the bottom. He is your race leader with Brody Garner to the outside of that line, so he got up there. He's still leading that line, though, so the team is still doing their job proficiently. They did lose Andy McDowell, though, as he fell back in line. He's now 4th on that second line as Mark Frimpong is trying to find some sort of look into 3, maybe just hoping people can go. And that's also something, Charlie, to note when you go to super speedways. It's just, you have to have faith in some sort of way. I know you can go off of just scale level, go off of the draft, go off of that, but if you don't have any faith in anybody going with you, there's no shot of getting anywhere in this game. If you don't have anyone to help you, you don't have any group that is willing to go out there with you, you have no shot of being up in the top 5 or really in any draft group whatsoever, especially when you're trying to push it 2, maybe 3 wide. That's where it gets a little sketchy. You saw Mark Frimpong trying to test the waters there, but nobody went with him. That can be some feedback using later in this race, as actually Frimpong shuffles McKinney out of the way, so McKinney will have to find some sort of space on the middle.
Yeah, Blaze was struggling for air to try to redirect into his engine, and a lot of these guys, well, I think now's a good time to emphasize the importance of engine temperatures, especially at a plate track. When you're tucked up behind someone and you're pushing them, you're getting little to no air and fresh air into your engine, so it could really ramp up the temperatures and almost blow up an engine entirely. And you know, a lot of these guys will start to peek their nose out, or at least just try to redirect some air into the front of their grill in order to cool it down. Blaze McKinney was inching just above the line in which he was pushing Brody Gardner, and Mark Frimpong took the opportunity and went right below him.
Well, now as we got over to lap number 41, going to crest over into lap number 42, we're going to start coming back into the conversation of pit strategy. We saw everybody pit around the lap 22 to 25 mark at around that point. That was kind of the fuel window consensus for everybody, but now we're coming into lap number 42. Maybe the window will start to open once more. So a couple more laps get put into the books, and we will probably have all the leaders find their way into pit road, and we'll have another splurge, and maybe not a yellow that time to maybe get that separation and try to see which drivers are better in terms of that grouping itself. But so far has not been the case. Garner and Mon leading this field, all the way controlling both lines.
Yeah, you had mentioned starting to dip our feet into the next round of pit stops. We are about 15 to 16 laps into our fuel run here, so a lot of these guys are going to start thinking about pit stops here and pit strategy, because if they pit any earlier than lap around 45, I would say, that's going to be a fuel mileage race.
Yeah, that also comes in. I mean, it's very tough on fuel mileage. I'm never very good on fuel mileage, to be honest. I remember wholeheartedly in DRL, and in one of the leagues I was in, it was a truck league at Daytona. I was with my teammates, and I was like, hey, let's just save. Let's be a little bit further back in this field. Let's save. We'll save some fuel. And turns out we ended up one lap down, and that strategy just did not work. And the race pretty much went green all the way throughout, apart from just one yellow flag. Actually, no yellow flags. It was just a huge crash on the final lap out of turn number 4. So that's also something to know. If we start to pit, you have to pick and choose what lap you go, because then you have to save some fuel along the way, and that's going to pose a very tricky situation for drivers that are in small groups. Maybe if you go 2, 3, 4 cars, it gets very tricky there, because you have drivers saving, but then you have the one up front that is wasting all the fuel and is at high risk of losing all the fuel and getting rid of that and pretty much being out of this race for good. And now you're seeing, you mentioned that second round, everyone's back to the inside. No more outside contention. So now, at least within this lap or the next couple of laps, we could see drivers go down pit road and finish their cycle off the second time.
And I would expect one just splurge of cars coming down all at once, and then a couple guys stay out and they get the next round. That's really been kind of a trend with pit stops, but when you get that big group of people, you kind of tend to overshoot. It looks like the 9 of Nick Miller is coming down.
And that was Miller going all by himself, so you see him down pit road. He's locking up the brakes a little bit, actually around, almost contact with the inside wall in the pit entry. Now that's going to lose him a lot of time on the track, but he's the only driver to go down pit road as everybody almost single file. There's Granada with Aiden Murray kind of hanging in on the top with Glenn Bundren there. And the two drivers in the 77, or the 78 and the 79, William Schmidt and Liam Sheen. They're both hanging in together. So the question is, what lap will they pit? Are they extending it a little bit more, or are they waiting to see what everybody else does in front to make sure they can react at the ample time? We'll see this time around whether anybody dips down at pit road. Seems as though the answer is no. They'll wait next time by.
All right, well, we are beginning to be more safer in the fuel window. If these guys pit, they might be able to make it to the end just based on a 20-lap run that these guys have been running in the past. Actually, my math is completely wrong there.
All right, well, I guess we'll reset. We'll try it one more time, and we'll try to get in there. But it's 75 laps. You have, from here on out, you have about 29 laps left. So maybe that could be the target. If they're going about 25 to 22 laps to go, maybe they can shoot for that range. I'm not sure whether they can extend it that long, and actually they really can't, because here comes the leaders now. Sartaj Mon will go to pit road. Brody Garner, all the proximity guys, going to be hard on the brakes on the entrance to the pit lane. They'll find their way in. Meanwhile, Parker White and everybody else up front will decide to stay out one extra lap. Could be the difference between making it to the end and faltering at the final laps.
Yeah, not as big of a group as I expected, but I'm hearing on the radio right now that a lot of these guys that are up front that were just shuffled up to the front are going to be pitting this time. So this could potentially be a bigger group, and it could be a lot more unsafe for these guys, because when you're pitting, you're really judging your braking points. If you don't have a set braking point, you're really judging it by the other cars around you. So if you try to outbrake someone, if you try to extend it just a little bit further, it could cost you, like it did to Mark Frimpong on the first round of pit stops.
And here we go. This larger group will find their way down pit road. Looks like nobody's going to stay out. It's all spread throughout this group. We'll see who makes it. We'll see if there's any contact a little bit further back. It doesn't seem to be the case. So everybody in clean. Actually, no, not for Shani Mantova and Joseph Costello. They got into some contact on the entrance of pit road. I think they're safe enough to get in their slots with some minimal damage, but that surely could cost them some extra needed time on a pit road. Parker White will find his way in with the rest of these guys.
And the only two guys that have stayed out is the 82 and the 39 of Cole Williams, Aiden Kirker, representative of Eel Media Racing. They're working together. But with only 2 cars, I'm not sure how this is going to work, or at least how it'll scale up to the guys who all went down pit road just recently.
Well, yeah, you'll see how it cycles out, especially when they both go down pit road. And here comes Aiden Kirker going to go down. Does Cole Williams go down? The answer is yes, so he'll slow down. They'll both find their way in, but the question resides, as he's locking up the brakes there, they're trying to get under pit speed. How long will it take before everyone else in that large group can chart up to these two? And I mean, the only thing they have is each other at this point. They don't really have anybody else to help with them. I mean, those two were only working together for so long. And now we have just a lot of separation. Here's Aiden Murray, I believe, missed his pit stall last time by. So he's going to find his way down pit road. This is net P1. Blaze McKinney, Dylan Basin, and actually Parker Collins in the 062. This should be net P1, P2, and P3, as the rest of these guys will follow suit behind Parker White, Mitch Hobbs, and then a huge group behind where Mark Frimpong is.
And it looks like the 82 suffered a speeding penalty there. Was over 30 miles an hour over the speed limit on pit entry there, and leaves his teammate Aiden Cooker out to dry. As you see, the field just blew past him right there.
I mean, that's the thing you have to do with these pitch strategies. You just have to execute the best way you can. You see Paul Granada coming out as Aiden Kirker gets passed by the main pack here. They'll be taking over the race lead here next time by on lap number 50 with about 26 laps to go. It is just a matter of the execution. If you're not able to execute the right way, especially when you get in the long green flag run down pit road, you cannot go anywhere, especially if you execute differently. Let's say this case right here, you just saw it, a prime example. Cole Williams and Aiden Kirker hanging in the back, working together, trying to save some fuel, get an extra lap in, go down pit road, one of them messes up, and all of a sudden, they're all by themselves. Kirker is all by himself, Cole is going to be all by himself, and then just have to rely on some sort of way to get back into the main packet, into some sort of draft, and try to work your way out, dig the hole out the way there in that regard. But it is very hard and a tall task, especially when things stay green flag racing. It's very hard to try and get back up. You need at least some sort of yellow to get you back into the winning conversation. Speaking of drivers up front in that winning conversation, Parker Collins has found his way to the race lead, so he found a way around the 87 of Blaze McKinney, so he's taking the lead on lap number 50.
And I'm looking at the names throughout this front pack. I'm seeing a lot of new who've been hanging around in the back, most notably probably Mitch Hobbs came close to the class win at earlier this season, before the season opener, and Mitch Hobbs is really a name that's been floating around in super speedways. He's had his shots and his fair share of almost victories a numerous amount of times in pretty much any league, as he bumps Brody Gardner out of the way and back to Mark Frimpong. So Mitch is really going to be a name that I'm looking for. He's been really consistent, but it seems like he just can't pull it off.
Remember Mitch Hobbs on the ice car side of things, he was the Super Speedway Series champion, and without a win at that, had that consistency to stay up in the points and won that championship. Obviously, it wasn't as big as obviously the Winter Series season on the ice car side of things, but still, I mean, it can prove to just how good the number 89 is on the Super Speedways and just how consistent he can be. And plus, he was a little bit further back in this field, Charlie, if we noted, in that opening run. And now you see him here with AJ Bain, guys who were hanging in the back of the field. Now they're starting to find their run. It seems as though Mitch Hobbs got left out to dry. He's going to have to file back into the middle line behind Garner.
AJ Bain, another name that I was going to mention, one of the guys that's been hanging around in the back in the 001 car. We saw him lead a few laps. If any of you guys remember the Tresco Racing League ARCA race at Talladega, AJ found himself up front for a few laps, and he just pushed Mark Frimpong out to the front. Mark Frimpong is your new race leader.
Yeah, Frimpong comes up to the race lead, so that pit road speeding penalty was no match for the aggressivity of the 53. Going to find his way this time around with about 23 laps to go from the Talladega Super Speedway. We've already got around our second cycle of pit stops, and now we just have to find out whether they can make it all the way through or whether they can cut it close. Here comes AJ Bain with help from Nick Miller. They're going to find their way to the outside. It's 4x4 all the way down.
And it's pretty much set in stone. I can confirm now that these guys are not going to be able to make it on fuel. So they will be coming down pit road with just about 5 or maybe a bit more laps to go in this run. So it's really, really going to be interesting if this goes green, how this is going to play out. But one caution, I'm not complaining.
No, one caution will definitely set this on the right path for everybody, because here you're on this sort of concern where you probably maybe not make it all the way in the stretch. You probably don't think you can make it all the way. You're probably thinking about saving, being in a little more conservative mode, and just making sure you can kind of limp yourself all the way to the checkered flag without running out of fuel or maybe sputtering. That could really change the game forever for even drivers up in the top 5 and everybody in this group, everybody in this race. But one caution, that can set things up everything perfectly, because then the drivers can go down pit road, they get all that fuel they need, and then all of a sudden they're good on fuel. They don't have to worry about it. Problem is with the yellow flags, they're 4 wide there. AJ Bain got shoved out of line, and Miller and Garner were working together there over the middle and the top. If you have that yellow, there's that good possibility that everything will come crashing down. You'll have those yellows that'll come after the big crashes and everything that comes with it. We've seen it obviously here at Talladega. We see it at Daytona. We've seen it everywhere, Charlie, on the super speedways, and it could definitely strike back. But now, in terms of right now, without any yellows, right now it's just a talk about the fuel as Blaze McKinney's on the outside.
By the looks of it, this top 15 group of cars is about 6 seconds back from PJ Merrill, who leads the second pack, around 6 seconds back, with another big group of cars. So this top 15 up front here is probably going to be the one that we're going to be watching towards the end, unless these guys can somehow line up and group up properly to make up a whole 6 seconds on a super speedway.
Yeah, and this is kind of concerning here because there's 4 cars up to the top. They want to make a second line. I guess they want to push over to the front of the group, but that doesn't seem to be the case. They don't have enough cars up there. That's 2 and 2, kind of a little duos there between Riley Marabello, and now it'll be 2 once again as Costello looks to the inside. Almost a close call with Aiden Kirker there, but then you see Bridger Olsen and Glenn Bundren. Meanwhile, it'll be Merrill, Paunetto, Jonathan Jones, Latham Joyner, Kirker, and Costello working forward on that bottom line, and they're all the way back in 16th, 17th, 18th, all the way back, and now 16th as Marabello leads this group. So that is going to be interesting to watch, whether they can try to catch up to this group or whether they can stay back. But I'm not sure what will happen if a caution does come out or if we stay green, because maybe that kind of group is in a fuel conserving mode. I'm not sure whether that could be the case as to why they're so far back, but we're just going to have to find out as we're getting lap number 56. That outside lane kind of dissipated everybody to the bottom.
Oh, contact with AJ Bain there, and I believe that looks to be the 78 of Liam Sheen. Big save there, crucial save for the 001, and he keeps it in line.
That would have been close. You saw it right there on the exit of the tri-oval where the 001 AJ Bain got hit there all the way to the inside and had a really close call there coming to the entrance. That could have been the yellow, but it was not. As looking up to the front, you see Miller a little bit further back. There is Liam Sheen. There's kind of a little breakaway here by about 8 cars as Liam Sheen tailing this group and Frimpong continuing to lead this way. But this could be also another concern here, Charlie. If you're not going to make it on fuel, if you're very close and you're leading this group, what do you really do here? Because you're wasting the most fuel out of anybody here. You're not in the draft. So what kind of strategy do you have to play to make sure that you're going to be a contender at the end of this race if it stays green and if everything cuts close?
And back out front, that number 87 defending champion, Blaze McKinney, finds himself out front with just over 15 laps to go in this race.
And there's Frimpong holding back. So Frimpong will lose that spot. He'll try to get in the draft. That's what I was just about to say, that everybody leading that line will be wasting a lot more fuel. So Frimpong going to move down to the 10th spot behind the 49 of Sartaj Long. Going to try to save some sort of fuel in order to make it all the way to the end of this race. But it is proximity all the way at the head of this field. Garner with about 5 cars, 6 cars behind him. Gonna have Miller to push him to the front.
And, well, Garner is a name that's we really talked about coming into a Bundren Lawn Care Series race at a plate track, because he's had 2 shots to win this thing, and in a photo finish, he came up just short. Starting with last season at this very racetrack, came at a photo finish with Shane DiMantova, got knocked out of the way. Shane took that win. Earlier this season, was involved in the battle for the win. Bridger Olsen knocked him up the racetrack. Bridger Olsen won the 200. So Brody has had, once again, we're going to talk about his fair share of plate racing experience and how close he's gotten.
And he's just been so close. He's been a bridesmaid already twice, and you know, having that so close, being so close to that edge, being so close to a victory. I mean, he already has one of the Bundren Lawn Care Series, and a yellow at lap number 59 comes, and that could be the saver for everybody on the track who was worried about the fuel. We'll see who was involved. I don't see anybody around on the track just yet.
Started with Brandon Paunetto, I believe, in turn number 3.
There's Paunetto a little slow on the racetrack. We'll try to get a look and see where this victim party started, or at least where this crime started right here, as Paunetto was looking around at turn 3 and 4. I believe I see anyone in this group, or really anyone at all, for the most part. There's Paunetto a little slow on the track. Olsen was there as well, I believe, around that mark. Remember, they were all together. As there's Paunetto on the bottom of the track. I don't really see where this stemmed from, however. But we have a yellow. There's damage to Bridger Olsen, so Olsen was definitely involved in that. Winner of the 200 at Daytona. And now he has some damage he has to fix. DiMantova with some damage as well. It had to have happened there in that group. We were just talking about them about 6 seconds behind that main pack. And now they have some damage. There's going to be a lot to discuss in this yellow flag. And what that means is that there's no more concern for the fuel window. Everybody can top off. Everybody will be good. Here comes Brody Garner. He'll lead the rest of these field out into the pit lane. And we have a lot of business going down on pit road.
Yeah, this is going to be the pit stop that secures them to the end. And they're going to be about 5 to 7 laps good on fuel. So all strategy beyond this point is out the window, and a lot of these guys are ready to race for a win when we get back to the green flag.
And now the question is, who executes this one the best? We talked about execution already a couple times. Who does it better than the others? McKinney is going to be up to the front of this field. He will take it away from Garner. Where does Garner find out in this entire group? He's already gaining some spots. He's out in 6th on the track. So a lengthy pit stop for the 55 of Garner. Shoots the number 87 to the lead. Parker Collins will be 2nd. Parker White will be 3rd. McDowell finding his way to 4th. And guess who's back into the top 5? Aaron Tribble in the number 84 machine. This is going to be it, Charlie.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, pretty much all the progress, or all the strategy that we've been talking about up to this point is now since been blown out the window entirely. I know I mentioned that just a few minutes ago, but, well, let the festivities begin.
Well, it is holiday season, so we could have some surprises on our way coming through into this next restart. And got a question over by Francisco. He asks, picks to win. He says his is Parker White. Charlie, I mean, this question comes up a lot at these tracks, and I think it still gives us the same reaction, still gives us the same answer. We never know. We don't know who's going to be up to the front of this field at any given point during this race, because you could have McKinney up to the front right now. All of a sudden, he gets turned in the front of the field, and next thing you know, the winner's the driver all the way back in 11th. We still have no idea, but I'd say to me, if I'm looking at anyone right here in this group, if I'm looking at any of the drivers I've seen so far who have been aggressive, drivers who can survive, I'm probably going to say that Brady Weileman will be one of those drivers to survive. I think he's going to get by. If there's a huge wreck, I think Weileman will know what to do. I feel like he'll get by, and I think he will probably take this checkered flag. He has one win at Talladega before. It came at LWRC Cup Series on this very channel at Talladega. I don't see, if there's a large crash up front, that the 51 will be in it. And I think he'll end up getting some sort of a win here tonight. Charlie, I know it's a tough question, but if there's anyone you're looking at, who do you have your eyes peeled out for if things start to go down?
This is a pretty... Man, this question is pretty much a random guesser. You're pretty much picking a random guy in the field, trying to make it through. But if I'm looking for someone to make it through, if I truly believe that this person is going to survive again, I'm looking at probably Blaze McKinney, or Parker White, just because if they survived so much in this race and have proved themselves to be good racers up front, I think the wreck is going to be behind them. He's going to pull away to a win.
I mean, yeah, that could be it. I mean, even then, if there's no wreck, if everyone stays green, I think if there's anyone I'm looking at, it would probably either be Tribble or Brody Garner. I think they have that prowess in order to find their way in the line. They've been able to have some success up there, Charlie. I mean, if there's no big wreck, I think I'm still going with Weileman if there's a large wreck. But if there's none, if everyone stays green, we stay clean all the way to the checkered flag at lap number 75, I'd probably bet myself on Tribble and Weileman, since they have been so successful creating lines, working with other drivers, especially when that 55 finds his teammates. That's where he kind of shines the most. He already has at least one of his teammates within this top 5, and he can find some sort of way to gain some sort of respect and have a shot. But we'll just have to see. We'll get a restart on lap number 63 of the 75 with about 13 laps to go. Had that caution under the second cycle of pit stops, and now we just have to see. Everyone's good on fuel. There's no more talk about strategy. The only strategy you're going to have is just dodging all the bullets here from Talladega Super Speedway. They'll work off of turn number 4 for the final time on lap number 62. And the pace truck will make that sharp left all the way down to pit road. We'll get to the agonizingly long front straightaway in the tri-oval before we get to the restart zone where McKinney and Collins will step on the gas, and they will be the first ones to see the green flag this time by. What will happen? We don't know. We'll find out. They'll reach over to the restart zone on the exit of the tri-oval, and we are back under green from Talladega.
Organization taking place here. I think he found a good friend right behind him, Parker White, who's proved himself to be a good pusher throughout this race. Actually, both of them have proved themselves to race up front, but that Highline's going to have the run down the back straightaway. And we're going to, when you watch a plate race, you sense to pick up the trends of the Highline and the low line, because you notice at the end of the back straightaway, the outside line creeps towards the front, and you're almost able to clear for the race lead. And it really takes a good pusher behind you to make it happen.
Hey, that is very true. I mean, you're seeing this outside line with a lot more organization that we've seen at some points throughout this race. Now, McDowell is going to get shuffled out of line as Frimpong will come up to second. So there are just about 4 Toyota Camrys working with, and then there's Glenn Bundren a little bit further back in that Chevrolet Camaro. Meanwhile, inside continues to hold strong, but now the question stands, which driver will go up top? It'll be both Tribble and Garner. Garner's going to shoot back to the inside as Tribble's going to hold this line, going to try to take over the race lead.
Highline starting to stack up, low line starting to choke through the corner. Brody Garner's lane splits 3 wide, shuffles Aaron Tribble up to the outside line. He's got no help. He's going to fall back. Blake McKinney continues the lead.
He's going to have help from Parker Collins, but what a move by Brody Garner to push his way through the middle and shuffle the number 84 out of the way. The 84 now has no help to the top. He's going to have to try and find some sort of space to get back into this. 11 laps to go from the Talladega Super Speedway. Garner now with an inch out front. McKinney still on the bottom. They're all the way lined up. Even further back through about 15. They're 4 wide behind.
4 wide behind. The Highline looks to be the most organized right now. There's just a little bit of gap between the Flying Arrows number 4 of Jonathan T. Jones with J.J. Hale right behind him. Highline looking to be cleared in the corner. Brody Garner for the race lead. He takes it. We're going to wrap around the 10 laps to go here.
This is going to be the stretch that'll change everything in this race. Garner, your new race leader, out in front once more, but no teammate to control the high side. Collins is going to slip into the inside, leaving Frimpong out to dry on the top. He'll try to lead this line with about 5 cars, or about 4 cars to help him out. It's a 2-car train up front. They're clear for the race lead about a couple laps to go.
Clean air to the nose of Mark Frimpong, but not looking to make up any ground so far. But the low line just doesn't look to be as organized. You see there's a bunch of gas between those cars, so I don't see that working out, as the high line is just simply more grouped up. Mark Frimpong looking to make a charge to the front, but will Blaze McKinney make a move? Yes, he will. Gap behind the 55. Blaze McKinney looking for the race lead again.
He's got contact there from Mark Frimpong. Frimpong is loose up into the front of the field, and he's around to the outside wall as Glenn Bundren around. Huge crash in the back. More drivers involved. Yellow flag out at lap number 66 as Frimpong got shuffled loose in the middle of the pack and now has a torn up race car. It all started with that move from McKinney on the back straightaway. And now we have another yellow. We'll re-rack the field once more. We'll find out where this started, and we knew where it started right here, where the 87 of McKinney found his way in, but it looked as though there was some sort of a sandwich here between himself and Sartaj Mon, because you see the 87 go up here. They have a huge run. They kind of shuffle in together, and the 53 really has nowhere to go, and then just trying to hold on to the race car. More contact, trying to check up. And then Bundren gets involved. You see some more contact there. I saw Weileman down at the bottom of the track. I saw, I believe, AJ Bain involved in there as well. He had a little bit of contact in the middle of this one, as there was more contact. That's the 39 of Aiden Kirker slipping down the track. Almost contact with Aaron Tribble down there to the bottom. And Frimpong with the worst of it. He is out of this race. Wow. Well, we knew everything was going to start coming at some point. With those. And, I mean, that one was just kind of a miscommunication there. Really didn't find that way. I mean, when that happens, you see a huge run get sucked up to the back, and then all of a sudden you have some of that sandwich effect where the drivers just get pinned. And they have really nowhere to go, and it really upsets the car. And he sets it out of line. So we have a caution on lap number 67. We'll most likely get one probably around lap number 69, since the pace truck lights are still on. So we'll go one more time around this 2.66 mile racetrack before we get anywhere close to the checkered flag.
Well, I think this will probably set us up for a 5-lap or less green flag run to the end of this thing. We've already seen a wreck, not the big one, but it was certainly a wreck, and Mark Frimpong, a guy who's been up front pretty much throughout the entirety of this race, is now out.
So now that leaves another question to be desired. Who's going to step in his place now? Who's gonna be there where Mark Frimpong is now not? Like where since Mark Frimpong was so aggressive up front, since he had that spot in this race, since he had such a secluded area in this race, who's going to try to take that spot away? Who's going to be in that new spot to be the new aggressor here? And who's going to really try to make those moves and be the driver up top? Obviously, there are a good amount of drivers to be in this field, and if you're looking, there are a lot of drivers who have traded hands and are now at a shot to win this race. Look at 5th place, Jonathan T. Jones. We have not seen him all race long. He's been all the way in the back, about 15, 16. Remember, Charlie, we talked about him when they were in that group about 6 seconds back from the main group. And now he's in 5th place with a shot at a win. You look even further back. Drivers like J.J. Hill have been here almost all race. Andy McDowell with even sufficient damage. He still has a shot. Liam Sheen is back here as well. Nick Miller, after being 2 laps down in the opening round of this race, he is now 11th with a shot to get up to the top 10, top 5. It's a large shakeup of drivers. So we're probably looking at a restart at lap number 70. That'll be with about 6 laps to go, and even then that could spell even more yellows throughout And of course, if we do have more yellows throughout, that could easily push us in a green-white checkered territory. To describe those rules just a little bit more and to expand on it, the green-white checkered will happen with about 3 laps to go. And of course, we'll have 3 attempts at it. We'll start or restart with 2 laps to go. We'll get the green flag. We'll try to loop around to the white flag, and we'll try to finish this race. If a yellow comes out before the leaders reach the white flag, we'll rack them up and do it once more. We have 3 attempts to do so. Or if the leader does get to the white flag, then everything will be finalized. Whoever gets back to the line first is the winner. If there is a crash, there will be no yellow, and the race will finish under green. Or if we maximize those attempts and we're not able to get a proper green flag run in, the race will end under the yellow flag and the field will be frozen. So whoever was in the lead at the time of the yellow on the 3rd and last attempt will be your winner from Talladega Superspeedway in race 7 of the iRacing Bundren Lawn Care Series in Season 3. We have the bridesmaid, Brody Garner, who's been very close at a win handful of times on the Superspeedways, versus defending champion Blaze McKinney up top. It's going to be a tango.
I'm sifting through the field right now, trying to find teammates, and really the only people that I see are Parker Collins and Parker White, both from McGrath Sim Tour. Other than that, I see Andy McDowell in 7th, Brody Garner leading. That's for Proximity Racing. I think
there's also Flying Arrows and Jonathan Jones on the bottom of row 3, and then Blaze McKinney up at the top in 2nd place.
Not really a significant amount for each team. So I really think at this point your friends are where you find them.
And here we have some friends. I mean, if they're willing to work with them all race long, surely they can try to help in some sort of cases. I think a lot of these drivers, it's all about hope. Just hoping those drivers will help them and hoping they don't get left to dry. Just trying to chase after a victory here. As we are going to get a restart on lap number 70 of 75. 6 laps to go at the line. Pace truck is down to pit road. We're going to work around the tri-oval one more time before this restart. We'll see if this is the final yellow of the evening or if we get pushed even further. Garner and McKinney at the head of this field, and as they go back on the gas pedal, we're back under green with 6 laps remaining.
Not a good start for the inside line for Parker Collins. That was sitting right behind Brody Garner, and that's going to allow for the 95 to push the 87 possibly out to the front as that bottom line just tries to get reorganized.
They're trying to get some sort of way as Garner had a huge jump on the restart, but did not have the help to suffice. And here comes the outside line, about 2 cars, contact between Garner and JJ Hill. 2 of the leaders on the outside are going to make their way to the inside. Parker White gets loose on the outside. They're still shuffling. Parker to the outside wall, flying in the air, huge crash. Miller, McDowell, Wildman, Hobbs involved as Parker goes tumbling over the front straightaway. Huge wreck sets another competitor out.
Wow.
We were saying it. Cautions will breed cautions. We'll look just where that started. And of course, Parker White was at the head of all of it. We'll try to take a look as we try to find where Parker White is, and just take a look at where this started right here. It was all right here where the 55 had gotten into the 95, given the push, and then he just got turned over by JJ Hill and just went soaring over the field. You saw Miller get hit, McDowell get hit. There's William Schmidt escaping barely. Brady Wildman got involved as well, and Miller with sustainable damage.
That's probably one of the wildest flips I've seen in this series. Oh man, a lot of guys just getting caught up in really unfortunate situations, and a lot of guys just couldn't do anything to avoid that one.
I think this might be a really good camera here. Parker White, as he got tagged loose. And, oh man.
Oh man, that's a roller coaster ride.
That is really hard to decipher even where that 95 is because of just how high he was on the track. And Parker White's night is done. And that leaves some more drivers to be on the attrition list. 4 was about Frimpong, Bundren. And now it's about the group of Parker White, McDowell, Miller, Weileman. All of them involved. Well, we'll just try to take one more look at this as we're going back on around. And we'll try to find where this obviously started again. It started right in the middle of that group where all those drivers were further back. And as per se, I mean, through that yellow, it was huge on it. This is a look from Dylan Bason's view. Just on the inside, right at the head of this field. You see him right on his nose camera, right there. Almost had that shot and just went under all those guys. A lot of drivers even missed. I mean, William Schmidt, you look at him, he also found his way around them as well. Schmidt had to dodge very well to the left. He had a car right on top of him for the most part. Here's a look through William Schmidt. Oh, right over the front windshield. And then look at McDowell coming up the track. Weileman also spinning down. And then Schmidt able to survive. That's really what you got to do here at this track in order to get by all the incidents, is just plain survive. And now we have another shuffled field as McKinney will be first. Brody Garner will be second. J.J. Hill will be in third with some damage though. Collins, Liam Sheen, Jonathan Jones, Dylan Basin, Brandon Paunetto, Aiden Murray, and Aaron Tribble in this top 10. Well, now this will definitely push us into green-white checkered territory, Charlie. We probably were not looking at it, especially early in this race when we saw all those green flag runs. We were probably expecting to see a lot more green flag racing to come throughout, but it seems as though we're back in the same place we were last season, where we're under another green-white checkered attempt, and we have to solve it this way.
Well, I think a lot of us, including us, are kind of sitting around waiting for to go back green, but we should get the one green signal this time, and we're going to go back green flag racing. It should be, I believe, an organic green-white checkered.
All right, so we'll have an organic green-white checkered, but if we get another yellow here on out, of course, we'll get into the actual green-white checkers. This one, kind of just a normal one. I guess it was naturally made due to the timing of that yellow flag. It'll be McKinney on the inside, Brody Garner to the outside, so it'll be shuffled this time around. Parker Collins will support the number 55 in row number 2 on the outside, with J.J. Hill supporting Blaze McKinney on the inside. And then in row number 3, Liam Sheen on the inside, Jonathan T. Jones on the outside. And that's going to be out of the tail. That tells us where we're going to go, who's going to win, who's going to get up to the front, what line will be the best, and who are the best pushers, who's going to communicate more efficiently throughout this race. And through these final laps, it'll be 2 laps to go when we come back to the green flag. Man, this is going to be intense once more. We saw cautions, bred cautions. They'll probably continue to breed cautions until we get to the end of this race. And even now, Charlie, it's just flipping over on its head. I mean, when we dropped the green flag, we were expecting this. We were expecting everybody to get into cautions. We were expecting these cautions to come out very, very frequently. But now we push in to long green flag runs. We get our whole perspective change, and then it's right back to square one where we started. All right, restart. 2 laps to go. We'll etch off of turn 4. What might be the final restart of the evening. Of course, if we get a yellow beforehand, we'll slip into green-white checkers. But for now, this could possibly spell the rest of the way to a winner in race number 7 of the Bundren Lawn Care Series in Season 3. McKinney and Garner are going to be at the front of this field. Pace truck is already down to the safety of pit road, but now everyone 2x2 all the way down are going to roar onto the front straightaway off the tri-oval. And McKinney will be the first to see the green flag. And as they come off the tri-oval, they'll step on the gas pedal. We are back under green with 2 laps to go.
Good jump, and an important jump there for the 55 of Brody Garner. Can he possibly slide down to the bottom? He will. So the 87 and 55 crashing right behind.
Parker Collins around. He got turned in the middle of the field, and another caution will get us in to green-white checker territory. That was Collins, who I believe got around all by himself as everybody scrambles to get around. We'll look once more where that started. Just saw it barely over our horizon view, and just where that was. Well, where Parker Collins was at the time of this, he was right to the outside. I think, oh, just no space, trying to find his way to slip in the inside, and then got into Liam Sheen, William Schmidt, Mark Frimpong, and Jonathan Jones flipping over on his side. You can see him sliding down the apron. Not sure whether he came to rest on all fours or whether right there, just on the side, he got involved. It all started there where Collins, everybody was looking to the inside. You see Garner find some space, and then Parker Collins tries to find that space as well, but then Liam Sheen is there, and then he gets into Liam Sheen, gets into the 4. Stribble gets in there as well, right over the top of Cole Williams. Aiden Murray also had a hit to the outside wall. And we have another yellow flag. Will put us into the green-white checkered land. But we'll have McKinney and Garner back again to battle at the front of this field. And even then, we saw it very differently there, Charlie, because on the last restart, we saw them both together side by side. Everybody was equal. It seemed as though it was going to be side by side for the most of the time throughout. But this time, that inside line had the biggest jump, and it looked like just everyone was trying to find space to go down there as opposed to trying to battle up top. Three laps to go. Our first attempt at a green-white checkered will be coming up shortly. We'll take a short break, and when we be back, we will cover all the final action here from the Talladega Super Speedway. You're watching the iRacing Bundren Lawn Care Series Race 7 in Season 3. McKinney currently leads with 3 laps to go.
It's the thirstiest time of the year. Hey. I have just one query.
Want a Sprite cranberry?
The answer is clear. It's the thirstiest time of the year. Sprite, let's go.
Coverage of tonight's iRacing Bundren Lawn Care Series broadcast is brought to you by iRacing. Join thousands of sim races across the globe at iRacing.com. By EO Media Graphic Design. Get your graphic design done. Just ask EO Media on Instagram. And by Supermix Concrete Blocks on Demand. Welcome back to the Talladega Super Speedway. We have yet to conclude a winner here in race number 7 of Season 3 of the iRacing Bundren Lawn Care Series. Currently going to go over our first attempt at a green-white checkered. We had a natural one just before, but a caution involving Parker Collins, Liam Sheen, and Jonathan T. Jones, and a handful of others brought us under this yellow this time. And now we are under our first attempt. And to answer 3 white times question, there will be 3 attempts at a green-white checkered before we can declare a winner in race 7 and move on to the Darlington Raceway, where we'll continue our season all the way to the playoffs. Of course, Kenneth Bueno and Charlie Baier with you along the ride from here on out through the entire season. And we have been watching this race. It has been completely different from what it is right now. If you've been watching the entire race from the drop of the green flag, we had an early run to about lap 25. We had green flag pit stops before yellow with Cole Woody setting us under the yellow flag for the first time in this race. Then we react them up, started another long green flag run. We went under green flag pit stops once again before yellow came out. And a huge crash started this entire run with about a couple laps to go. Then we had a caution between Mark Frimpong and Andy McDowell, Nick Miller, Brady Weileman, where they got into contact. And then now our most recent yellow, where Parker Collins tried finding space on the inside, got into contact with Liam Sheen, and as a result brought a couple drivers with him, Jonathan T. Jones being one of them, Aiden Murray as well. And now we have another sprint with 3 laps to go, coming to 2 to go, this time off of turn number 4. We've been watching these two up here, Charlie, Garner and McKinney. They've been at each other's throats this entire race. They've been one of the drivers to be the threat to win this race, and yet we have not found an answer as to who will be the prevailer. The truck and the pace truck will go down, make the left to pit road. We'll get over once more to the long tri-oval in the front straightaway before we get to the start-finish line, and we'll get 2 laps to go from the virtual Talladega Super Speedway. There's contact just before the green flag. J.J. Hill's getting into contact with Brody Garner. I'm not sure what's happening here, as McKinney will try to form a restart out of it anyway. J.J. Hill is gone from the track, and we're back under green with 2 laps to go. And they're wrecking once again. Sartaj around in the front of the field. Do we have a yellow? The answer is no. We stay green. They wrecked under the racing line, so we stay under green flag conditions. Now they're wrecking even further back, but I'm not sure whether we do have a yellow or whether we will stay green here throughout. About 5 cars into this group. McKinney blocking all the way to the bottom with Garner down there.
Well, that was a complete mess there, and that's letting people like Brandon Paonetto in this 5-car pack move up. This pack just disintegrated to over 20 cars to just over 5. They're going to wrap around to take 1 lap to go here at Talladega. An entire action-packed race comes down to this. Brody Garner from the outside, Blaze McKinney on the inside. White flag, 1 lap to go at Talladega Superspeedway.
Garner has help from Basin and Josh Patterson. It is 3 versus 2 as we got the white flag one more time around the 2.66-mile racetrack. It is Garner at the head of this field. McKinney and Paonetto trying to survive to the bottom. Question is, how long will Basin and Patterson take before they ditch the 55 and try to take over the race lead? There's almost contact. Basin all the way down underneath the yellow line. They're still side by side. Now Basin all the way down to the bottom in turn 3 and 4 for the final time. They're 2 by 2 with help from Paonetto on the bottom. Basin gonna look forward to this race lead. Will they have contact? Will Garner try to charge for the race lead? Final time into the tri-oval. Garner to the outside. Contact with McKinney, but it's Dylan Basin at the head of the field. Winner in race 7 of the Bundren Lawn Care Series in Season 3. Garner short for the 3rd time. A bridesmaid, he will stay. McKinney, defending champion, will finish 3rd. Patterson 4th. Brandon Paonetto with the best finish in his Bundren Lawn Care Series career at 5th. Unbelievable finish. It went from more than 23 cars at the start of that restart to down to 5 to duke it out for the win. And it is Dylan Basin who takes his win of the Bundren Lawn Care Series here. What a wild finish. After the race went green for pretty much almost the entire way throughout with some quick yellows to spice some pitch strategy to go along the way. But it's a large, chaotic sequence to bring Dylan Basin to victory lane. He celebrates in front of the virtual fans. Mitch Hobbs there to celebrate alongside. And we need a breather after this one. That was very wild. We'll take a look at your unofficial results from Talladega Superspeedway. Of course, Dylan Basin takes the win here tonight. Brody Garner will finish second. Blaze McKinney will finish third. And I think we may have to look over at this restart once more. We'll go over the top 10 before going to the rest of this field. But we'll try to get a replay of that finish. Josh Patterson will finish fourth. Brandon Paunetto in the top 5, with Cole Williams and Aiden Kirker rebounding from that pit road mishap to finish 6th and 7th. Parker Collins 8th. Shane DiMantova 9th. Riley Marabello rounds out this top 10.
Right outside the top 10, Riley Marabello, similar names. Actually, no, PJ Merrill, whoopsies. Finishes 11th in the 061 car. Mitch Hobbs, car who we saw up front throughout the duration of the race, or at least after the second pit stops, finishes 12th. Brady Wheeleman 13th. Aaron Schibel 14th. In the machine 15th. Glenn Bundren 16th. Mark Frimpong 17th. Nick Miller 18th. William Schmidt 19th. And rounding out your top 20 is Cole Woody, who was trapped a lap down throughout the race, but got it back on the restart.
And Cole Woody was that driver that went around in the middle of the first green flag cycle. Sartaj Mon had a strong run in that proximity racing number 49, but he finishes 21st. Paul Granada, Nova Sim Racing driver, in 22nd. Joseph Costello finishes the first car, one lap down, in 23rd. AJ Bain in the 001, 24th. JJ Hill, contact early on that restart, will finish 25th. Aiden Murray will finish 26th. Jonathan T. Jones with a wreck and a flip on his side will finish 27th. Parker White, a huge crash as well, comes home in 28th. Andy McDowell, 29th in the 98. Finalizing this top 30 is the 19 SPM Racing entry of Trey Shuttlesworth.
Latham Joyner in the 31st position, right up front as well. One of those guys who was going to be a shot for the win, but unfortunately got taken out. 32nd sees Bridger Olson in the number 59 car. Keila Hankins finishes 33rd. Corey Hart's 34th. Francisco Bacallao, suffering internet issues, 35th. Hunter Rupp, I believe, didn't even start the race, finishes 36th, and he'll round out the field.
We'll take one more look at this entire restart because, or at least that restart all the way to the finish. It just was wild all the way back. We'll just try to shuffle our way back to the field and try to find out where it was. As Basin was celebrating down the front straightaway, we'll try to rewind and get that move all the way back to the end. We'll try to find where this started. We're just gonna try to get a better look at where this all was. As it didn't seem to move, just trying to look over where Basin is on the start. And we'll try to look because that move all the way to the bottom was kind of the game changer for that entire race. It was Basin who looked under to the inside, under that yellow line to take the lead away. You see there Garner as Basin continues to celebrate. We're going to have to look over that once more because, and we'll see what the officials say here because I'm not sure whether the officials will take some sort of a move on this or whether it will stay the way it is and Basin will still be declared a winner here tonight. Well, look, this was the restart. We'll look even further. This was the restart right here. As Basin was sitting second on the outside in row number 2. There was contact with JJ Hill. There was a lot of things happening. AJ Bain got into Shane DiMantova there. That's what caused the wreck all the way back there. DiMantova was able to survive, but Basin, or AJ Bain, had the worst of it. Here is the move, though. all the way back here, you see Paunetto and Patterson start to catch up. It was a 5-car pack here as Basin was going to the outside. Garner made the shuffle move. He tried to get to the outside of McKinney. Basin was the first one to go up there, but he was all by himself. And then Patterson joins the group. So does Garner. That left the 2 down low as Patterson would shuffle back inevitably over to the top. He wouldn't have the run down to the bottom. He joined the number 08 up to the top. There he is. And this was coming to the white flag. This was one time around as Garner led at the start-finish line over McKinney. Basin was there hanging in second there on the outside. This was the white flag. This is the move that changes everything. You see they get the head jump over the 87. They have that advantage with 3 cars over on the top side. But then it shakes out here. You see McKinney tries to find some way to pinch. They clear themselves here. Here comes Basin to the bottom of the track. He finds his way, but it looks as though, I think that might be the ruling of forcing under the double yellow line. The Basin was already there. And then he had help from McKinney and Paunetto. And then all the way to the finish, that's where the story ends. There's contact with McKinney. I believe right about here between him and Garner. And then coming to the line, McKinney wrecks, Garner spins. And that's similar to what we saw at Talladega last season. Garner just short once again. Well, we're not going to take a commercial break. We took one just before that last restart, so we're going to go all the way down to victory lane, and we'll bring in the winner of tonight's race, Dylan Basin, in the number 08 in the Toyota Camry, comes home first. Dylan, I'd say that was a wild run to the finish. I think everybody can think the same, and you made that power move to the inside of Brody Garner in order to put yourself in position to win here tonight. Going in that final restart, there was a lot of cars. It was everybody in those groups, but then it dwindled just down to 5. Give us your perspective behind the wheel as that was all happening.
It was stupid. I mean, I don't know what JJ was doing. Even if he was having internet issues, he shouldn't have been throttling up, but I feel like I don't really deserve to win as much as I normally would since everyone got wrecked. It wasn't as much of a battle as it should have been. But, you know, good battle for the win there at least. Me and Brody, Blaze, and the other 2, Josh, and I don't know the other guy's last name, but yeah, it was just stupid.
Well, it definitely was an insane run to the finish. I mean, it went all the way down to 5 cars. But in terms of this entire race, I know that it changed dramatically because it was all just green flag runs. There were all the pit stops going through. Just what was that part about that green flag runs and all those pit cycles that really positioned you in the best place to put you where you were in those final restarts in order to even give yourself a shot at winning this race tonight?
It wasn't really the fuel strategy that got us up front. It was more of the just surviving the wrecks and getting the track position out of it. But the fuel strategy was definitely ruined by people wrecking for 20th in the back. I'm just disappointed in how we always have the same problem with people wrecking in the back. It's always something like this.
Well, basically, he captured the win here from Talladega Super Speedway, the Bundren Lawn Care Series. Before we let you go from victory lane, is there anyone you just like to thank, any team sponsors, or anyone else who just like to give shout-outs and love to for your performance tonight?
Mitch and AJ for helping me, and Miller. We were all around the same fuel strategy there. Although they wrecked out, they were still rooting for me to go for it, and I did. Also, props to Brody for racing me clean and stuff for the win.
Well, Dylan, we certainly appreciate the time. We congratulate you on your win here from Talladega, and we look forward to seeing your performance for the rest of the season. I know you've already won a race or more here on the KBueno Racing Network, and here it comes in the Bundren Lawn Care Series as well. So congratulations once again, and we look forward to seeing you for the rest of the season.
Yep, thank you.
That's Dylan Basin, your winner here tonight from the Talladega Super Speedway. Second place, once again. It came at Talladega last season. It was at Daytona this season, and it does it once more in this Talladega race. Brody Garner is sitting trackside with KBRN's Charlie Baier.
With Brody, it was a race that got turned on its head late in that run, and throughout the Green Light Checkered, how would you describe it?
Just really weird, I guess. So I think on the first one, I wrecked Parker White. I want to say sorry about that. Wasn't intentional at all, just me being dumb. and then I was in a really good spot, second on the outside with a friend behind me to be able to push, and I guess JJ's computer broke down or something. He had no control. So that gave me some damage, got around Blaze, then just didn't have any drive around the outside when Dylan passed me. Yeah, overall, green-white checkers were chaotic, I guess, and I guess I'm happy to get a top 3.
And coming short in pretty much the last 3 plate races you have, and almost seemingly have a shot running a perfect race throughout the duration of the races, and just coming up short, is it getting a little bit frustrating coming up just short because it seems to be a bit repetitive?
Yeah, I don't think I can ever win one of these. I've been in tent wreck twice and then had somebody's computer fail on me and give me damage so I couldn't drive past someone. So it feels like I kind of have a curse cast on me, but it could be worse.
All right, well, Brody, thank you once again for coming out here and racing with us in the iRacing Bundren Lawn Care Series. And a good performance for you turns into a top 2 finish there, but certainly a lot to take away from this race. But before we let you go, do you have any teams or anyone that you'd like to thank for making tonight's second place run possible?
I'd like to thank Proximity Racing and my teammates. It was fun running with them. Wouldn't have been able to finish up front without them. They kind of helped me and pushed me up there. So thanks to them. Thanks to Blue Chew Americas. Yeah, that's it. Shoot and do it. Oh, I'd also like to thank Henry Tabor for making the hard on the eyes paint scheme that I ran tonight. Yeah, that's it. Thank you, guys.
All right, Brody, we'll see you around, man. Good luck.
Thank you.
That's Brody Garner, second place finisher tonight from the Talladega Super Speedway. We'll go back to third, and the driver who won last week comes home in third tonight on the podium, finishing. So the defending champion continuing his strike all the way, continuing his consistency. Blaze McKinney, welcome back to the booth. And of course, we talked to you last week because you were the winner. You took the checkered flag over at Nashville, and tonight you were one of the strongest cars in this field. It seemed as though it was going to be you, Garner, or somebody else in that top 5, because you guys had stayed there for so long throughout this entire race. Just walk us through this race in your entirety and just how good it was for you in the pit strategy, in all the groupings, in the draft, and just that run all the way to the finish.
Yeah, honestly, I think we had a really good car. I mean, I feel like we dominated that race pretty much from start to finish. I mean, we didn't lead every lap, but we were up there most of the time. I don't know if I led the most laps, but I'm pretty sure I did. And the pit stops were on point today. I think every single time I pitted, I came out either first or second. So I'm really happy about that. That really helped me on the green flag pit stops. I could come out in front and kind of lead the way. But on those restarts, just nobody really cares about anybody else at that point. So they just kind of go for it. And they all just wrecked on that restart. And then it was just like the 5 of us. And they all just kind of ganged up on me on the outside, and I had no help. So it was just there was nothing I could do. I mean, I tried, but just kind of got left out to dry there on the bottom. And I tried to make a move there at the checker, just try to go 3 wide in the middle, and just had no room. So just glad we got a good point stay. P3 is good. Hopefully we can get closer to the points lead, if not take it. So I'm glad we had a good race, though. I'm glad we dominated most of the race. I really love these races. It's fun to lead these most of the races. So we'll go on to next week and see if we can win there.
Yeah, you mentioned just the points lead and just how crucial the points are. And I mean, for a lot of drivers, play races like these and these type of races are very dangerous spots, especially if they were in your position up at the top, at the verge of taking over the points lead once more, as you were behind Aiden Kirker going into this race. But now that you've survived this track and you finally have a good finish, you have some points to bring along with you to give you even more momentum throughout. How much of a relief is this now that you've gotten this race off your back, and now you can handle Darlington, Chicago, and the Charlotte Roval now going into the playoffs?
Yeah, I'm happy that we got through this clean. I mean, I wasn't really like banking on me winning this race. Just wanted to have a good finish and get through it nice and clean. So I'm glad we did that. I know Aiden wasn't really up at the front that much, so I think me leading all those laps and staying out front kind of helped me get closer to the points lead. So hopefully we can try to lead points going into the playoffs. And we got a couple good races coming up for us, so hopefully we can get some more good finishes there. I really need some more good finishes to kind of stay hold up there at the top 3 in points.
Well, Glenn, certainly a third place run here tonight surely will give you a good boost going into the rest of this season. But before we let you go, is there anyone you'd just like to thank, any teams, sponsors, or anyone you decide to give the shout outs and love to for your performance from Talladega?
Yeah, of course, Chris, for bringing these great cars to the track every week. I love the little Christmas car we got going on this week. Wish we could have won with it, but oh well, it is what it is. Flying Arrows, Grace, and all the guys over there, my teammates Jonathan and Shane, for racing with me tonight, trying to work with me. I know we didn't really get close to each other, but I mean, hey, it was still fun racing with them. And shout out to all my family and friends watching tonight. I appreciate the love. Again, wish we could have won it, but it is what it is. P3 is good enough for me. I'm happy with it.
Well, Blazer, congratulations go to you on this third place finish here tonight after winning over at Nashville. We look forward to seeing your performance for the rest of the season. I know Darlington and Chicago should be some of the tracks that you have in mind, especially after winning Chicago last season. So we appreciate the time, and of course, congratulations on your finish here tonight. And we look forward and wish you the best of luck for the rest of the season.
Yeah, thank you guys. Merry Christmas to you guys. Appreciate it.
Happy holidays. Blaze McKinney coming home in third on the podium spot here from Talladega. We'll look over to P4, where you'll find the O2 of Josh Patterson. Actually, fun fact, in our earlier broadcast of the A&B Outdoors Quick Time Sprint Car Series, Patterson was one of the interviewers in the Dirtman Photography Hard Charger Award. But this time, he's going to be on the interview as he's trackside with our own Charlie Baier.
Into the booth. Josh, you got a copy?
Yeah, I got you, man.
Josh, in a crazy race, started out conservative and then kind of dipped into a more intense kind of state. How would you describe that last green white checker there?
Crazy. With the whole JJ's computer crashing, Liam not having power, and the wreck behind me. I don't know. It just all worked out in my favor. And I looked around me. There was only 5 cars left, so I was thinking, all right, as long as I don't wreck, I got a top 5 secured right here. And I'm surprised there was no yellow because it was a pretty big wreck behind us. But I don't know. I went to push pretty much everybody I could. The 34 wasn't really pushing anybody, so I couldn't really get behind him. So, yeah, he was just lifting off of the back bumper of Blaze for most of the time. So I was just trying to push whoever I could, and it didn't really work. So, yeah, I'm happy to round out with 4th. So, yeah, good race overall.
There's only 5 cars really in that pack, so there wasn't a lot of help. But is there anything more you could have done to possibly get a nose out front or try to steal the win away here today?
There was one instance where I think I might have been able to do something. When Dylan made the crazy move to the inside to get by Brody, I think I might have been able to position myself better, but it just wasn't really enough. And then by the time I was able to get on Brody's back bumper, it was just a little too late because I got him up next to Dylan. It's just he wasn't able. By the time he and Blaze made contact, it just wasn't enough. So, I mean, maybe one more lap, I think I would have had a shot, but it just was too little, too late.
All right, Josh, well, an insane race for sure. It turns into a top 5. I'm sure there's no complaints there, but possibly could have been better. But thank you for coming out here and racing with us once again. And do you have any teams or anyone that you'd like to thank for making tonight's top 5 run possible?
I got to thank everyone at Nova Sim Racing, especially Paul Granata for being in there and Matthew McDonald for spotting for me and Paul. It's always really fun racing with those guys and fun to be in a call with them during these races. I got to thank Belfour Property Restoration, Endurance Distributions, NTN for being on the car, making this all possible. JP Designs as well. And I got to thank you two, Kenneth and Charlie, for broadcasting these races every week. It's always fun to come and watch the broadcast. You guys do a great job. And I got to thank Glenn for running the league as a whole and everyone on track for giving me a fantastic race.
All righty, Josh, we'll see you around, and good luck, man.
Thanks, Charlie.
Josh Patterson out of the booth. One of the more bigger names in terms of plate racing. You always see him up front, technically, whether that be in ISCAR, whether that be in Bundy, but he always seems to be a person that's there at the end.
Yeah, and he mentioned that move to the front of this field, started 20th and finished in the 4th spot. It certainly was a move all the way to the front for the driver of the O2. We're going to get to our final interview and possibly one of the feel-good stories here tonight. A driver with the best career finish in his Bundren Lawn Care Series career, Brandon Paunetto. Brandon, I know it's been your first handful of starts ever since the drop of the green flag at the Daytona International Speedway. You survive all the havoc, you survive all the chaos, and you come home with your best finish in your Bundren Lawn Care Series career. Just give us your emotions and thoughts after tonight.
Man. Oh man, I don't even know what to tell you. I thought this race wasn't gonna go too well for us tonight. But you know what? We did some Carb Cup races as a practice, and sure enough, it very well paid off. Unfortunately, caused I'm not sure if I caused the one wreck or two. I'm not sure entirely, but I had two really cool wreck avoidances there, which that was a lot of fun. But you know, being up towards the front at the end, I mean, you know, my mind was going 1,000 miles an hour. It was such an incredible rush, you know, just even be up there, because you know, Talladega, anybody can win that race. But yeah, for the most part, our race was I mean, it wasn't too bad. I mean, we were mostly sitting around mid-pack. You know, we were just waiting for all the calamity to happen, and quite frankly, I was honestly expecting it to be a lot more dirty tonight than I expected it to be. I think, what was it? I'm not sure how many laps we went, but we went quite a while before that first caution came out. But yeah, I had a really great spotter tonight with me, so can't thank him enough for helping me out. Yeah, I mean, I don't even know what to say. This is just crazy. Like, I never thought, like, if my third start, like, I would already be here in the interview room with a top 5 finish. I mean, I honestly never thought that would even happen. But you know, we made the switch from NASCAR Heat to iRacing this year, and for the most part, I mean, we've been working hard. We really have been. You know, we've been working our way up in official racing and everything, and can't thank obviously Glenn Bundren enough for the invite for the league. It's just absolutely incredible. Just avoiding those 2 wrecks and finding they're out for the win in the end. I kind of lifted a little bit too much there at the end, and I saw there was a little bit of net code between Blaze and the 55 there. That kind of ruined his night, and then I finished, and then apparently I finished him off, but which I apologize to Blaze on that end, but still, top 5. I mean, I think this is third or fourth start. I can't even keep track anymore. We got a 13th at Daytona. We got 13th at the road course. Got 6th at Michigan. Got 6th at Michigan, and now here we are with the top 5 at Talladega. Wow.
And you
I don't know.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
What? I don't know what the next race is gonna bring. Can we get 4th? Maybe even a win? I don't know.
Well, I mean, this was a journey through the field. I mean, we talked about Patterson having a journey through the field, but this was even better. 30th on the grid starting this race, and you finished in the top 5. That was 25 spots gained since the drop of the green flag. So you surely had a lot to look forward to. You certainly had a lot of sightseeing around this entire field, seeing every other driver, being from the back, being in the front, being everywhere around this field. So, of course, you made that work, and, of course, that valiant effort to try and help Blaze McKinney and be in the draft there at the end in those waning laps. So before we let you go, Brandon, I know there's definitely a lot of people you have to thank, and I know you can go through the list. It doesn't matter how long you take. Just run us through all the people you got to thank here for tonight's effort and pretty much this entire run of the Bundren Lawn Care series so far.
Well, first off, I can't thank Joseph Casello enough for Matt McGrath and also the guys from McGrath Sim Sport, Mikey Corbin. I can't thank them enough for getting me into iRacing. When trying to make that investment, and I have to say, I mean, even with me being on the service for about 4 months, can safely say it is definitely worth my investment for sure. I can't thank also all my reaction squad buddies, Brooks, Bryce, who else am I missing? James. I also can't thank him enough for being one of my best friends and everything. I also can't thank my good partners over at Angry Birds enough for their continued support of my YouTube channel. As you guys already know, there's an all-new arena in Angry Birds 2. Feel free to go play it now. Download it on the App Store or on Google Play. And let me be the first to say there's going to be some pretty exciting stuff with me and Angry Birds in the weeks and months ahead. I'm going to guarantee you that there's so much exciting stuff on that end. I also can't thank Richmar Florist Racing, and I also can't thank who else I can't thank. I also can't thank Tiffany Fisher, artist, for helping me design the car. She makes incredible OCs. She's got a really great YouTube following as well, so show some love to her as well. And also, most importantly, I can't thank Glenn Bundren, and I also can't thank you, Kenneth, for giving me the invite into this league, and for also believing in what I can do here on iRacing. I mean, I never thought in almost 4 months I'd already be of just being on the service, I'd be in the interview room. But yeah, top 5. I'm freaking hyped, man. Oh my gosh. I don't know when the next race for me is gonna be, but we'll see. Depending on what happens. I mean, I also have to balance out school. As a matter of fact, I'm about to be finishing up college this upcoming semester, so I got to make sure I balance it out on that end. But for sure, I'm definitely gonna be back, and yeah, hopefully it'll be something better than a 5th, and you know what? Why not? Let's just go for it. Let's send it, baby.
Well, Brandon, certainly I know you must be super happy, and of course we're all happy to see that in just a short amount of time, and just since the drop of the green flag over at Daytona, that you've made a handful of starts, and already you're putting some sort of note on the rest of this field, and you come home here 5th in the best finish. Surely a lot of great things for you coming in the future, and of course our congratulations at the KBueno Racing Network goes to you on this 5th place finish, and we look forward to seeing what the rest is in store for you in this season, and especially moving on forward. We've got Darlington, Chicago next, so I know that's going to be some sort of key of races, and of course the playoffs throughout, and those tracks are also going to be a lot to store in as well. So thank you, Brandon. We appreciate all the time you spent here, and of course congratulations once more, and we'll let you go celebrate. We'll stop bothering you for now, and we'll let you go celebrate this one. Congratulations, Brandon. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm gonna go take some nice pics and put them on Instagram right now. So yeah, thank you guys so much, man.
It was Brandon Paunetto, 5th place finisher, your final interview from tonight's coverage at the Talladega Superspeedway. Charlie, back up in the booth. We have a lot to recap, and just how this race was surely will spell the fortune for what will happen in terms of Daytona in the playoffs. This is our last Superspeedway race until we get to that point, Charlie, and now it's our chance to go over the rest of the races in the schedule. I mean, we're going over to Darlington, Chicago. We saw Darlington dominated by Hunter Johnson last season. Chicago won by Blaze McKinney. If there is a moment now, in this time, if you want to get in the top 10 for the playoffs, it's got to be now at this point.
Definitely. And, as I mentioned at the top of the broadcast, we're going to start to make our descent into the playoffs, and we're getting into the stage where we can say it's only just a few races away. And, it's really go time. It's really time to punch the gun for some of these guys who are currently outside. But a lot of guys who I'm looking at in the standings or in the finishing order right now needed these points. Cole Williams, Aiden Kirker were able to defend their good points positions, along with Blaze McKinney. Riley Mirabello currently sits outside. He's probably in as a result of this. Shane DiMantola as well. So a lot of guys with really good points days, people like Parker White, who got taken out head-on into the outside wall. Not good for his run.
Yeah, so this will put us into a very interesting situation, especially when you move forward to the points. We're going to take one last look at those points before this race. Give ourselves some sort of reference here. Blaze McKinney will most likely be at the top of the standings here after tonight, after the amount of laps he's led, and of course his first place finish, contrary to Aiden Kirker's finish in the top 10. That'll surely make some sort of a difference. Parker White, that contact in the outside wall, that'll hurt him some bit, especially as he was 1 point shy of Jonathan Jones right behind him in 4th. Bundren, Miller, DiMantova, some of them with good races, some of them not. I mean, DiMantova finished 10th, or actually 9th, excuse me, while Miller had a little bit of a rougher night in 18th. Cole Williams tonight also had a rough night. I think he's got a better finish in 6th tonight. He survived. Brady Weileman in 9th in these standings, where he finished all the way back in 13th. and Bridger Olsen probably going to take the biggest hit. He finished 31st tonight. That is definitely not going to be a very good situation for him as we continue to move forward. If you want more coverage from the KBueno Racing Network for the Bundren Lawn Care Series, we most likely will be going back live in 2 weeks' time. We'll take a short break for Christmas and New Year's, and of course we'll be back with more coverage of the iRacing Bundren Lawn Care Series from the Darlington Raceway, our throwback weekend. Surely going to be a lot of fun. We hope to have you join us when we go over there. If you want Sunday Night NASCAR, that'll also be starting back on January 3rd for the Watkins Glen International Raceway and the road course. That'll be over on Sunday night at about 8:20 p.m. Eastern. And for Wednesday night, might have broadcasting for the AMB Outdoors Quick Time Sprint Car Series as they move over to the Knoxville Raceway and their Christmas Derby. But from all of us here at the Bundren Lawn Care Series, for Glenn Bundren for putting this all together, and of course for everybody watching in the YouTube streams, thank you, thank you, thank you. We've just bridged over 300 subscribers, and we are more than grateful to have each and every one of you tuning in, whether it was from the beginning of the Trexco iRacing League broadcast at Talladega, or even if it was all the way right now. If you tuned in just today, we appreciate you. We absolutely are grateful and are blessed to have each and every one of you join us and have a lot of fun in the broadcast as we just commentate over these sim races. Always been a lot of fun. And for all of us here at the KBueno Racing Network, for Francisco Bacchiao, a crew member and actually a racer here tonight, and for Charlie Baier in the booth alongside myself, Kenneth Bueno, we say good night from Talladega Super Speedway. Throwback time is next at Darlington. We wish you a safe and fun holiday season, and Merry Christmas, Hanukkah, whatever you celebrate. We certainly wish you the best and a safe one with you and your families. We'll be next live from Darlington.